Get ready, true believers, this one's for you. We're gonna go over the physiological facts about everyone's favorite Jolly Green Giant. Let's dive deep into the facts about the Incredible Hulk. Excelsior!
The Incredible Hulk has to be one of the most misunderstood comic book characters of all time. And I don't only mean this in regards to how he's perceived by a lot of his peers within Marvel Comics, but also how fans understand his character. For most mainstream fans, the Hulk is just the Unga Bunga guy, who's there to beat the problem into submission when the use of tactics and brains fail. I don't think it's a stretch to say many just look at him as a foil to Bruce Banner's brains. While this is true in its own place, I'm here to tell you that Hulk's character has much more depth to it than most people realize. From smashing Galactus to leading a revolution and becoming an emperor in an alien world, the Hulk has proven time and time again just how multifaceted and ever-evolving his character truly is. So join me in this video as I explore 8 insane facts about the Hulk that you've probably never heard of. Let's begin. Where does all that mass even come from? I think it's fair to say that whenever someone mentions the Incredible Hulk, the first thing that comes to mind is his size. What many don't realize, in my opinion, is that nobody really wonders how Bruce Banner is suddenly able to gain so much mass in mere seconds. Anybody you know who hits the gym, or even the biggest roided up guys you know, will tell you it's not easy to gain muscle mass, let alone at the scale that the Hulk does it. Over the years, we have been provided with a couple of explanations for this phenomenon, one of which at least I can bet most normal fans would never guess in their wildest dreams. So let me get that out of the way first by talking about the explanation offered to us in issue number 5 of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, which says that the exposure to the gamma rays allows Bruce access to over 800 pounds of bone marrow and tissue in his body. The handbook is quite ambiguous about where exactly he gets this extra mass from, as it simply says, from some unknown source. This has led many fans to speculate that this unknown source might just be another dimension similar to the hammer space used by Looney Tunes characters to produce their giant hammers, etc. out of thin air. The next theory is a bit more plausible and grounded, as it comes from Jeff Parker, who took over the Hulk comics in 2010. When asked about this very thing, he replied in a tweet saying, "During transformation, he pulls in ambient gamma energy and converts it to mass." Either way, I think we'll have to agree that this sounds like a painful process, which is another reason in a long list of things why the Hulk is always so angry. His cells are basically gamma reactors. I believe everyone who has ever touched a comic book in their life knows the origins of the Hulk. In the very first issue of The Incredible Hulk that came out in 1962, when Banner is exposed to the gamma bomb while trying to save a teen who had wandered into the test site, it is made very clear that the incident had altered him at a fundamental level. According to how Marvel explains gamma radiation, it is the highest frequency wavelength of electromagnetic radiation which can manifest in 3 different forms. These are, I believe, a wave, a particle, and gamma mutagen. I am not much of a scientist, so I can't tell you how much of this is made up by the folks at Marvel, but what I can tell you is the third one is something that they definitely made up by themselves. Individuals affected by this third form transform into Hulks or Hulk-adjacent beings, like Abomination, Red Hulk, Dr. Samson, and so on. However, what people fail to understand is that the gamma radiation they are exposed to has nowhere to escape, and they should essentially be large irradiated masses dangerous to anybody around them. But why is this not the case? After some research, the only plausible answer I came across with suggested that instead of poisoning the Hulk, the gamma radiation had transformed his very cells into reactors, which processed this energy and used it as fuel to grant him his strength, mass, healing factor, and his rage. His bones aren't just dense, they're practically indestructible. The thing with the Hulk is due to him having this incredible healing factor, which literally won't allow him to die. I think people forget just how durable this guy is on just a base level. His physique isn't just for show. They actually translate to his powers, and once again, while most folks would focus on his body, I think his bones are just as impressive. Think about it realistically. To sustain that amount of muscle mass effectively, I think it's only natural that his bone structure must be something else. Have you ever seen a comic book where the Hulk's bones get shattered by physical trauma? That alone should speak volumes about just how indestructible his skeletal frame truly is, in my opinion. In his World Breaker form, his stomps threaten to tear the earth apart, which just goes to show just how devastating his physical powers are at that time. I think an example of how indestructible his bones truly are that most fans will have seen is during MCU's Age of Ultron film from 2015. Despite being repeatedly hit by Tony Stark's Hulkbuster armor, a heavy-duty anti-Hulk suit built to withstand his strength, Hulk doesn't even experience a fracture. Meanwhile, Tony has to keep calling in his replacement parts for the armor. Meanwhile, every strong structure needs a solid foundation, and I think the Hulk's bones provide him with just that. The healing factor that shouldn't be possible makes him immortal. Now I know what you're thinking. Healing factor isn't really that special or unique when it comes to characters within Marvel Comics. There are guys like Wolverine and Deadpool who are already pretty famous for their healing factor. I also understand that the extent of just how powerful abilities like these are shown to be depends on the comic book and the writer. However, in my opinion, there hasn't been a more disturbing and overpowered portrayal of this ability in Marvel Comics than in the one-shot comic Hulk: The End, which was written by Peter David in 2002. The story is set in a distant future where the world, including all the other superheroes, have been annihilated in a global nuclear war, leaving only Bruce Banner, the Hulk, as the last man alive. The comic book explores the loneliness and the survivor's guilt that Banner feels as he begs with his Hulk persona to die. During the day, he is hunted by these vicious, mutated insects who overwhelm him with sheer number and feast on his flesh, leaving him as nothing but a husk. However, despite this, by the end of the day, the Hulk fully regenerates and continues his journey across the desolate planet, denying Bruce what he so craves. We are told that Bruce had attempted every single measure available to him to end his misery, but each and every time the Hulk would prevent his death. In the end, his own strength becomes a curse, with his healing factor granting him an immortality that he doesn't desire. I think it's one of the darkest and damning takes on this power, and also one of my favorites. TLDR, he survives a nuclear war, mutated beasts, and every single way that a person can die thanks to the Hulk's regenerative powers. If that is not an overpowered cheat, I don't know what is. He grew a brand new organ just to breathe underwater. We've seen the Hulk do his thing in space, but despite his enormous strength, durability, and healing factor, the big elephant in the room, in my opinion, has been how well he fares underwater. From the outset, it was made abundantly clear that the Hulk struggled underwater, not because he couldn't handle the environmental pressure or the foes he met there, but simply due to his inability to breathe. In The Incredible Hulk, issue number 165 by Steve Englehart and Herb Trimpe, we see the Hulk wearing a transparent breathing apparatus, which is very reminiscent of the headgear from one of those old dive suits from back in the day. In that comic, as Hulk battles a fellow called Aquan, I recall that we are explicitly told that he needs to resurface to breathe. The same goes for him again in Incredible Hulk, issue number 408, where he is seen surfacing to breathe. This trend continues all the way to the early 2000s when it is finally changed in The Incredible Hulk issue number 77 by Peter David. In that comic, the Hulk is seen battling a giant squid, after which he washes ashore. But unlike the previous times where this would be a good thing, he immediately collapses, and as he transforms back, Bruce Banner tells us that the Hulk had most likely adapted to the environment and developed another organ to help him breathe underwater. I think it's important to know that the catch in this particular issue was that the villain of the series was a reality-warping individual called Nightmare, meaning it could have all just been an illusion. However, it is later confirmed that the Hulk can indeed adapt his physiology to the environment he is exposed in during Jason Aaron's run on the series from 2011 to 2012, essentially negating one of his only weaknesses and instead granting him a new power. His internal organs are fireproof. We basically discover that his innards are as durable as his exterior in the irredeemable Ant-Man issue number 10, written by Robert Kirkman. Yes, the same guy behind The Walking Dead. The story actually ties in with the World War Hulk series, which features the Worldbreaker Hulk that I mentioned earlier. After Hulk destroys Black Bolt in his quest for vengeance against the Illuminati, he gives an ultimatum to evacuate New York City in 24 hours before he destroys it. Seeing it as an opportunity to loot the Big Apple, Eric O'Grady, who has the mantle of the Ant-Man at this time, arrives in the city and tries to take on the Hulk by entering his body. I found it hilarious that the Hulk doesn't even notice Ant-Man's presence, as Grady attempts his best to wreak havoc inside the behemoth's body by torching his visceral organs. Unfortunately for him, Hulk's internal organs seem to be as durable as his external body, and Ant-Man is not able to do any damage to it. Frustrated, he escapes from the Hulk's nostril and gets caught in the battle between Hulk and Iron Man, leading him to be the one, I believe, who lands in a SHIELD facility for medical care. As if the Hulk couldn't be more overpowered. But then again, the Worldbreaker Hulk is one of the strongest versions of the Hulk to date, so I don't really think that is much of a surprise. His blood can literally heal other people and planets. In the Planet Hulk storyline, as he battles his future wife, Kyra, the resulting clash leaves both of them bleeding. However, as the Hulk's body begins to fall on the barren soil of Sakaar, plants called the Alehal vines begin to emerge where they had dropped. This leads to everyone believing that he is a prophesied Sakaarson, the hero who was destined to lead Sakaar into a new golden age and free them from tyranny. I think it's important to note here that the Hulk's blood is not really used to fully rejuvenate the planet Sakaar, that it's mostly credited to a mysterious energy tied to the life force of the planet called the Old Power. However, a much more direct display of the Hulk's blood having the power to heal people was shown in She-Hulk issue number 1, with regards to the origins of She-Hulk. In that comic, lawyer Jennifer Walters, who is Bruce Banner's cousin, is shot by mobsters and is on the verge of death. Due to her injury, she is losing blood rapidly, and there is no compatible donor near her, other than Bruce. I don't need to remind you that Bruce Banner's blood is irradiated with gamma radiation and is poisonous to normal people. However, out of desperation and seeing no other way out, Bruce transfuses his blood to Jennifer in order to save her life, and the results are miraculous and, shall I say, somewhat transformative. Not only is Jennifer healed by Banner's blood, but she also acquires the power of the Hulk, allowing her to transform into her She-Hulk persona.
I'm always angry.
His transformation isn't really about anger. I think at this point in the Hulk's history, it is widely accepted by fans that while anger might be the primary trigger for his transformation, it isn't the only cause behind it. To understand this more in depth, allow me to explore Bruce Banner's psyche a bit more, which I believe will present us a much more clearer picture with regards to this topic. It is well documented that Bruce had a traumatic childhood, which led him to develop coping mechanisms to deal with it. Now, I can't tell you for certain whether his fragile psyche was fractured by the gamma radiation, or whether the radiation merely allowed the already broken psyche of Bruce with his multiple personalities to resurface, because authors over the years have taken their own spin with this matter. The important thing I feel that we need to keep in mind here is the fact that the Hulk is a defense mechanism for Bruce to deal with anything that threatens his well-being, mental or physical. Which is why it's not just anger that transforms him. It's the collective stress that arises from things like fear, paranoia, and a deep-seated childhood trauma. I agree that anger is the biggest trigger of them all, but to say that his transformation is all about rage is an oversimplification of things, in my opinion. In the end, I think it's fair to say that the Hulk is a much more complex character, not just physiologically, but also psychologically, which is quite contrary to how he is largely perceived by the mainstream crowd that only looks at him as a dim-witted brute that serves as a foil to his brilliant scientist alter ego. It looks like even in the MCU, we're going to see yet another evolution of his character in the Spider-Man Brand New Day film, which is set to be released later this year. More recently, in the Hulk Smash Everything miniseries from 2025, the Hulk literally smashes through a supermassive black hole and beats the living hell out of Galactus solo. The point I'm trying to make here is that Hulk's character is not going anywhere anytime soon, which I'm thrilled about as a fan. What's your favorite Hulk moment? Let us know in the comments down below. For now, it's time for me to say goodbye. I hope to see you soon in the next one, and until then, stay safe